James, you have got to tell me what you're doing differently.
Linda came over this morning looking worn out.
I had my thermostat at 68 last night. That air conditioner ran half the night, and my back bedroom was still hot.
I said, mine was set at 75, and I slept just fine. She just looked at me. 75, she said. James, I was sweating at 68. I know, I told her. That's why I don't think your air conditioner is the whole problem. Linda lives 3 houses down from me here in Charlotte. Her place is an old brick ranch, same as mine. Low roof, long hallway, bedrooms in the back. She figured I had put in some fancy new unit. I had not. Mine is no newer than hers. So I walked back over to her house with her. I did not go outside to look at the unit first. I did not touch the thermostat. I walked into her hallway and looked up at that little square attic hatch in the ceiling. I said, Linda, what's sitting right above your bedroom? She said, the attic. Exactly. My name is James Williams. I'm 87 years old, and I spent most of my working life taking care of old school buildings. I learned a long time ago, a room can feel hot even when the air conditioner is doing its job. Sometimes the trouble is not down at the thermostat. Sometimes heat has been building above you all day, and your air conditioner is trying to catch up with it. And in Linda's house, that little attic space was the first place I wanted to look. Linda said, so you're telling me my attic has been cooking my bedroom all day? I said, I wouldn't put it quite like that, but yes, it can make the job harder. That attic is one of those places we forget about. It is up there mostly out of sight, so it is easy to think it has nothing to do with the room below. But on a Charlotte afternoon, the roof sits in the sun for hours. The space underneath it warms up, and that heat can linger after the sun goes down. I am not saying your attic is a monster, or your air conditioner is useless either. Your air conditioner is trying to pull heat and some of that sticky moisture out of the house. But with a hot attic above the bedroom and ducts up there too, the machine may have more to deal with than you realize. That is why you can stand under a vent, feel cool air on your arm, and still say, why does this room feel so miserable? Linda nodded. That's exactly it. The air feels cool for a minute. Then the room just turns heavy again. I said, that is the clue. The hottest room in a house is often not random. Sometimes it is showing you where the heat is getting the upper hand. So before I said one word about repairs, filters, or insulation, I asked Linda one simple question. Which room starts losing the fight first? She did not have to think about it. The back bedroom, she said, every afternoon. And that was where we started. I said, all right, Linda, don't buy anything yet. Tomorrow afternoon, just pay attention to the house. She laughed. That's your big advice. For the moment, I said, yes, because sometimes a house will tell you where it is struggling. I told her, around 3 or 4 walk through every room. Don't change the thermostat. Don't turn on extra fans. Just notice which room feels different. Different how? The room that makes you want to leave, I said. She smiled, but she knew what I meant. Maybe it is the bedroom where the air feels thick. Maybe it is the back room where late sun comes through the window. Maybe you walk in and think, why is this room always worse than the rest of the house? You do not need a fancy meter to notice that. You are looking for a pattern. Is the room under the roof? Does it get afternoon sun? Does the AC keep running, but the room never really settles down? The next day, Linda called me around 4. You were right, she said. It is that back bedroom, every single time. I said, all right. Then that is the room we are going to follow. Because heat does not always come crashing through the front door. Sometimes it finds a small, quiet path above the hallway ceiling. The next afternoon, I went back to Linda's place. She was waiting in the hallway beneath that little attic hatch. Most folks notice one only when they put Christmas boxes away. Otherwise, it is just a square in the ceiling. I said, that little door is part of your house too, and right now, it may not be doing much to keep the heat out. We stayed on the hallway floor. I was not about to ask Linda to climb into an attic. One bad step can turn a small house problem into a bigger one. I looked along the edges. There was a gap on one side. Nothing dramatic, but the panel was not sitting snug against the ceiling. Linda said, "That tiny little thing can matter?" I said, "A lot of home problems are tiny little things." The hatch itself was thin and uninsulated. It was a barrier between the hallway and that hot attic air above it. I was not saying that hatch was the reason her bedroom felt miserable, but it was one weak spot, and weak spots add up. I told her, "Start by making sure it closes tight. Weather stripping around the edge can help from below." She said, "Could I do the rest myself?" "You may be able to handle that part," I said, "but for an insulated cover or anything that means attic access, get a handyman." No small repair is worth a fall. That little door was not a miracle fix. It was the first clue that Linda's house had more than one thing quietly working against her. And before she bought a new air conditioner, I wanted her to check the rest. I told Linda, "Before you spend thousands on a new air conditioner, there are 5 things I would want checked first." She said, "5?" "5," I said, "and none of them mean you have to climb on the roof." First is the insulation. Not whether there is some insulation up there. Most houses have some. The question is whether it is thin, uneven, pushed aside, or not doing enough anymore. In an older house, it can settle over time. It can get disturbed when somebody has worked on wires or ducts. You may never know that from the hallway below. That is something an insulation contractor or energy auditor can look at safely. Second is that attic hatch. Does it sit flat? Do you see a gap around the edges? Is it just a thin panel between your hallway and the attic? That little opening may not be the whole problem, but it should not be helping the hot air win. Third is the ductwork. A lot of older ranch homes have ducts running through the attic. Those ducts are supposed to bring cool air to the bedrooms, but when the insulation around them is damaged or a connection is loose, that cool air can lose some of its fight before it ever reaches the room. That is one for an HVAC professional. I would not want anybody guessing about it. Fourth is simpler. Check your filter. Then look at your return vent. Linda had a tall basket and a little side table partly blocking hers. They had been there so long she did not even notice them anymore. I said, "That system has to pull air back before it can keep sending cool air out." She moved the furniture, checked the filter, and found it had been in there longer than it needed to be. And fifth, have somebody look at the attic and roof as a whole, not you, a professional. Ask whether the attic has enough ventilation. Ask whether there are signs of moisture. Ask whether the roof is in good shape. Ask whether anything up there is making the system work harder than it should. Linda looked at me and said, "So you're saying I may not need a new system?" I said, "I'm saying a new system should not be the first thing you buy until you know what the old one has been fighting." Sometimes the machine is not failing. Sometimes the house has simply been asking too much from it. Linda looked up at the ceiling and said, "So is this really a roof problem?" I said, "Not always, but the roof is part of the story. Most people do not think much about a roof until it leaks. You look up from the driveway, the shingles seem fine, and life goes on. But that roof sits in the sun all day. Everything beneath it has to live with what happens above the ceiling." I told Linda, "I am not telling you to get up there with a bucket of paint. Please don't do that." She laughed. "But the next time you need roof work," I said, "ask a few better questions. Ask whether the roof is in good shape. Ask whether the attic ventilation looks right. Ask whether there is a roofing material or color that makes sense for your home and your part of the country. And ask whether any cool roof option is actually made for your kind of roof. That part matters. People see all kinds of things online they want to brush roll or spray onto a roof themselves. I would leave that alone. A roof is not a weekend experiment. You do not want to damage shingles, trap moisture, or create a leak trying to save a few dollars." Linda said, So I do not need to replace my roof? No, I told her, not because your bedroom is hot. That is a conversation for when the roof truly needs attention. For now, we were looking at the smaller things that could make this summer easier. A few days later, Linda called me again. This time, she did not sound frustrated. She said, "James, it is still hot outside, but my bedroom does not feel like it is fighting me anymore." That was all I wanted to hear. We did not do one big dramatic thing. Linda changed the filter. She moved the basket and side table away from the return vent. She had the attic hatch sealed properly with an insulated cover put over it. Then she called a local company to look at the insulation and ductwork. They found a loose section of duct insulation and a thin patch of attic insulation above the back bedroom. Nothing Linda would have spotted from the hallway, and nothing I would have wanted her trying to repair herself. There was one more thing. That bedroom had a west-facing window. Every afternoon the sun came straight through it. So Linda started closing the shade before the room got hot. She said I always waited until I was already uncomfortable. Most of us do, I told her. It is easier to slow heat down before it takes over a room than to cool everything back down afterward. Now, Linda's bedroom did not suddenly feel like a hotel room in January. That was never the point. But the room stopped feeling trapped. Her air conditioner was not running all evening, just trying to rescue one bedroom in the back of the house. She could sit on the edge of her bed after dinner without that heavy heat hanging around her. And she said something that stuck with me. "I kept thinking my air conditioner was losing," she said. "I did not realize the house had been making it harder." That is the part people miss. A room can be hot because the system needs repair, but it can also be hot because the house is quietly working against it. And before you replace something expensive, it helps to know which one you are dealing with. Now, I want to be plain with you. Not every hot room is an attic problem. Sometimes the air conditioner really does need repair. Maybe something is wrong with it. Maybe it is too old. Maybe it was never the right size for the house. And some things need a real professional, not a neighbor with a flashlight. A roof leak, wet insulation, mold, a strange smell from a vent, electrical trouble. Anything like that, do not ignore it. And do not try to patch your way around it with something you saw online. I told Linda we are trying to make your house easier on the system. We are not pretending every problem can be fixed with weather stripping and a clean filter. She said, "That makes sense." And one more thing. There is no prize for sitting in a dangerously hot house just to save money. When the weather is rough, use your air conditioner. Go somewhere cool if you need to. Call family. Call a neighbor. And if heat is harder on you because of a health condition or medication, follow the advice your doctor has given you. This is about finding the small things that may be making one room miserable. It is not about toughing it out. So this Saturday, do not start by climbing onto your roof. Start with the one room in your house that keeps losing the fight. So here is where I would start this Saturday. Start with the room that bothers you most. At the hottest time, walk in and notice whether it feels heavier than the rest of the house. Then check the easy things. Check the filter. Make sure the return vent is not blocked by furniture boxes or something forgotten. Look up at the attic hatch from the hallway. Do not take it apart. Notice whether it sits flat and whether there is a gap around the edge. Write down questions before calling somebody. Ask about the insulation. Ask about the ducts. Ask whether attic ventilation looks right. Ask whether the roof is in good shape. You do not have to know every answer. You just need to ask better questions before somebody tells you the first answer is a brand new air conditioner. That is what Linda did. She stopped blaming the thermostat for everything. She looked at the whole house, because sometimes the first place to cool a house is not at the thermostat. Sometimes it is above the ceiling. And I would like to know which room gets hottest in your house, and is there an attic right above it?